Hello, everybody. This is yet another Evernym demo video. We're excited to show the work progress we've made as a team on our contributions to Hyperledger, Indy, and Aries, and various other projects. We've been making a lot of progress in 2020, a lot of bug fixing mostly. We're trying to decide what are the right things to share today, because it is a lot of, we did a lot of bug fixing. But we wanted to make sure we keep our cadence every 2 weeks, getting a new video up there where people get an idea about the status of the project. On Indy Node, we want to start off, we had some team changes. We're calling ourselves the Upstream team because we contribute all sorts of upstream projects. And we're working more on Indy. We're moving our attention from the Indy SDK to the Aries project and the Aries shared libraries and how they interact with Indy. So we're talking about Indy Node and more like Aries, Indy Aries stuff, because some of the shared libraries are Indy instances of Aries protocol stuff. And so we're looking at our work a bit differently. A couple members of our team are taking Hyperledger expertise to help more with other parts of other Evernym products, like our Verity product and our Connect.me product. So our team's a little smaller, and that, of course, impacts throughput. And we had some vacations and things. So it's a fairly small sprint this time, but we did get some useful stuff done. We've been digging through in our testing of the new view change protocol in December, we identified that there were a number of bugs and corner cases around promotion demotion, and we've been focused on fixing those. Got all of those into the next release. We're excited to get that out. That should move to the Sovrin network in February. And we've been collaborating with the Sovrin Foundation team and other members of the community to look at options for what the future node should be. We've talked about doing that for a very long time. And especially we've been focused on rich schemas. Brent from Evernym and Ken from the foundation are both on the W3C working group for verifiable credentials. And they've created a lot of really cool stuff in the upstream and want to bring that into Indy. And they've started that work and we want to help accelerate it. They're also on the DID working group. We've talked about doing DID docs for a long time, but that spec seems to be more flux than I expected. They told us if we wait 2 months, it'll settle down. So we might make some progress in a way that can evolve to where they're going, but it's not quite as high priority as it was when I talked about it recently. So in the coming sprint, we definitely want to work on the rich schema stuff. We're not sure what order to pull these issues in and how many we can get done, but we're going to get started on that. We also need to create a tool that helps us identify when ZMQ is being blocked. We have some customers who've reported that deep packet inspection, well, they report that they can't access the pool. And we're suspecting it's deep packet inspection because most connections work, but it's only when traffic really gets going that it gets cut off. So we want to rule that out. Cam has been working on removing, Cam is on the Kiva team. He's been working on removing Indy Crypto from Indy Node, replacing it with Ursa. We want to help make sure that work gets done. And we want to share our checklist for how we troubleshoot Indy Node. We want to document how we do that. We have a log analysis tool that's that's saved us a lot of time. We want to make it easier for other people to run their Indy Node instances. Kiva's got their own. We know there's one in Germany. We know there's one in Scandinavia. I want to make sure that all these different people have the benefit from our expertise. If you're watching this video and you're interested in troubleshooting Indy Node, please let me know. We're going to schedule an Indy contributors call to go through report on some of this. Those are usually on Mondays. So watch that in the wiki. We keep the agenda in the wiki, and feel free to, we hope you join us as some of those Indy contributors calls to learn how this works. So there's the page in the wiki. So as we get that done, we'll add that to the agenda. Okay, looking at the SDK side, a lot of bug fixing. We're excited that we've been collaborating with some other teams to fix some of these bugs. The Crucible team has been working on 14.10. We've also spent some time looking at the other Aries tools. Aries Framework Go was contributed by the Secure Key team. Takes a very different approach from Indy, and we're very keen to from libindy. And so Nikita went through and looked at how that what we can learn from their implementation, how it's different, and we put together a set of questions. We are going to make that part of an Aries working group call, and we hope that you can join us and participate in that conversation. The security team said they're looking forward to it. I haven't created the agenda for that one, but it's going to be the second week of February. So that's going to be February 12th, because we just did this week's yesterday. So you can see that in the wiki as well. So we talked about that. That's issue 1420. You can see the HackMD link. I'll put that in the show notes in YouTube. We also have been confirming that libVCX works with Aries the way we expect it to. So we've been testing against the new protocol test suite. Keith at IBM contributed a bunch of additional tests, and it looks like we don't pass all those tests. We need to figure out whether the test suite needs fixing, or the RCs, or us, or figure that out. We've also been testing against both Akapai and StreetCred. Those tests look really good. There's a patch that needs to be accepted to both those products. That should be released in January, early February. And then we should have real world interoperability in the wild. We're excited about that. And we did some additional testing on the transaction author agreement. We had some reports that the CLI, the Indy CLI, wasn't returning the transaction author agreement digest. I'd forgotten, if you're not working with the latest Indy Node, in the last sprint video, we talked about improvements we made to how people interact with the transaction author agreement. And in fact, there's a blog published by the Sovrin Foundation on that topic today. I'll link to that in the show notes as well. But I'd forgotten that if you're not working against the latest node, then you're not going to see the digest. And so people need to do that. So here's the blog post that we helped put together, so that it explains a lot of questions, and explains specifically the transaction author agreement is going to be enforced on the sovereign networks in February. So I highly encourage people to make sure they're compliant with that, so that they're comfortable with that, their code can handle it, so they can move forward, do their rights. And that's everything I want to call out. Talked a little longer today than I was supposed to. Hopefully I didn't put us too behind schedule. Going forward, we're keen to work on the Aries shared library. So we're figuring out, we need to identify exactly where we're going to do that. We've been collaborating with the British Columbia team on the VDR, the Verifiable Data Registry. That is what libindy was. We used to call it the resolver, the Indy resolver. The BC Gov teams worked on that. You can learn more by checking out the Indy contributors call, where they've talked about that recently. So we need to figure out how we help with that. They're also working on pulling Anoncreds out into its own repo. We're going to work on that as well. And we need an Aries util to pull things like pack unpack and message stuff. Okay, that's the quick, now that I put us behind schedule, sorry about that. Vladimir is going to explain to us the new releases. Then we're going to talk about the system testing we did, the bugs we fixed. Vladimir, you can go right into that as well. And then Andrew Nikita will show us the bugs he fixed, and then we did some improvements on the CLI that Artem will take, or on the SDK that Artem will take us through. And I already talked about what I was going to mention for the future stuff. So I'll stop sharing my screen, and you can go ahead, Vladimir.
Hello, let me share my screen. Can you see it?
Came up, yes.
Okay, so I would like to tell about a new release first. We issued a new Indy Node and Sovrin release today. There were no new features added, but we have a lot of stability fixes in this release, and they are connected to our view change process during adding, demotion, and promotion of nodes in the pool. So this is stability fixes were the main goal of this release, and now we have only one known issue that was investigated during the release candidate acceptance testing. So Also, I would like to tell about our system, our improvements of system and load testing. We implemented a lot of new system tests that covered our demotions and promotions cases. And also we already had a pretty big amount of cases that we use demotions and promotions to check our view change process, for example, when we send fake node transactions during the view change. Also, we use demotions and promotions of our nodes when we test catch up. And so this our problems with demotions and promotions also be found in one of these test cases. And also we have special production case when we add some nodes to the pool and then start to demote it, promote it in different ways. So now we have big amount of tests that perform a lot of demotions and promotions, and also we have added the real node demotions and promotions to our load script. So now we can not just send node transactions without validator service. So, but we can demote and promote the real nodes of the pool with some promotion shift and some nodes that we don't touch with demotions and promotions, but also we performed a big quantity of load tests during the last sprint. So, and now we can do our load testing with real demotions and promotions to be closer to our real production environment. So I believe that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think understanding how those tests work is really valuable, especially for something this intricate as how promotion and demotion works. So if people have questions, do feel free to reach out to us. Andrew, you want to take us through the actual fixes?
Yeah, of course. Let me share my screen.
Sorry, Richard, it's not about the actual fixes. We were talking about the actual fixes last time. It's about also another part of tests. Vladimir was talking about the system tests and the load tests. And Andrew is going to talk about the tests from the developer point of view, about unit tests, integration tests, and our famous simulation tests.
Excellent. Thank you for the clarification, Alex.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I will run test and continue. Okay. I'm going to tell about our improvements in simulation test regarding to demotion promotion. As was discussed in previous demos, we have used simulation test for some months, and they are very helpful for us and very comfortable for debugging purposes also. Firstly, what was done for demotion promotion actions. First of all, we added nodes transactions ordering for simulation pool. then we added random initial view node for simulation pool. As you can see, now it's a random value from 0 to 1000. It was very helpful because we found a lot of edge cases, a lot of tricky cases regarding to promotion demotion actions, and our promotion demotion cases are shuffled with ordering of domain transactions too. Also, we integrated v-change triggering while nodes transactions ordering, and it's similar with real pool working. Well, all of our failed seeds now moved to separate test, and as you can see, there was a lot of failed seeds while we integrated promotion demotion actions into simple, and now they can help to indicate some regressions, for example, in future implementation, for example. Then we have a lot of unit tests that cover our tricky and edge cases regarding to node registry working, and regarding to our primary selection process. Also, well, there are a lot of tests. Okay. What can be improved? First of all, I think we need to integrate catch-up service into our simulation pool, simulation test, because for now we don't perform a real adding node to the pool. We just order node transaction, but not add pool. Not add node to the pool, and for these cases we have to add a catch-up service too. And we have some limitation regarding to node demotion, because we don't perform a catch-up after adding new node. Well, I think that's all from my side, because the test can because the test can take a lot of time.
I think it's really useful to get insight into how we test this area of the product. If you look at the issue in Jira, you'll see that there is graphs where Vladimir system tests show how many promotions and demotions go through when we do our load testing, and Andrew's, I forgot how many hundreds of test cases, different aspects of this that we've tested. So it is, it impacts the network quite a bit, and when there's a problem, it ends up being a big one. And especially as the sovereign network wants to start doing more dynamic pool selection, this is an area of the product we need to have a lot of confidence in. So I appreciate the team going through and showing us why we can have that confidence, what level of testing we've done. Thank you, that was excellent. Artem, let's talk about the SDK. Your screen looks good, but we're not hearing you yet. We can see you now on video, but we don't hear you yet. Something's gone weird with the audio.
Now?
Yes.
Oh, finally, yeah, success. So, I would like to talk about upcoming Indy SDK release. It should be available next week. Now it's in pull request state. We are going to build release candidate today, and I believe it will be merged tomorrow. So now I'd like to highlight the key features it includes. It's mostly devoted to bug fixing and minor user experiences. We solved some requests which we received for last month. There is a change log. I would like to go through migration guides for libindy and libv6 library. Let's first look at libindy. The first interesting thing is we got a request that there is no way to rotate your key for pairwise DID. In this case, your remote site changed his key. You can't update his record in libindy wallet, so you don't have a way to receive in UK. We did the changes, and now we are allowed to call the ID store the DID function twice. Last versions of this function will throw an error that this record exists, but now you can do it, and a new VRK will be received when you request for a VRK for their DID. Next, we changed validation for schema JSON because schema DID builds from parts of this record. We introduced validation that it was built the right way. Here you can see two examples of valid and invalid schema. In the second one, you can see that name is different from actual name used for schema ID. If you use libindy or ledger for building and getting schema, there shouldn't be any problem. But if you build schema yourself without a function, it can lead to receiving invalid structure error in case you do it wrong. The next interesting issue we received assumes a situation when a prover has two credentials which corresponds to single revocation registry, and verifier asks him to prove both of them on the same timestamp. In this case, the last previous versions of libindy builds invalid proofs because the revocation states map relates to revocation registry ID and timestamp. But in this case, all of these params are equal, so the same revocation steps were used for both credential that actually invalid. Now, we did a support that you can specify credential ID instead of revocation registry ID, and you can prove this successfully. For the VCX side, we keep working on Aries support. We did a lot of testing against different agents, and test suite. We did support of basic messages. We keep APIs the same. To send the message, you need to call the function v6 can send message and pass the message you want to send. If in case this message corresponds to any known areas message, it would be sent as is. In other case, your message will be wrapped into basic message structure. Also, in v6, we did support of names parameter for proof request. These improvements was done in LibIndy a couple versions ago, and it's really useful in case you want to request a proof for multiply attributes, which should be relates to a single credential. In DCLI, there are two changes. The first, we added a new command pool set protocol version. Originally, there was only one way to set a protocol version is connect to any pool and pass protocol version as parameter. But imagine that you don't have an access to pool. You just want to build a request offline and save it and transfer it somehow to anyone else who can send it. So now you have to call pool set protocol version to set a request version you are going to build, and after that you can build any request you want. The next point, we renamed an existing command payment address create. We did it to match naming convention we use for did new command. In current version of IndyCLI, we keep both commands, payment address new and payment address create. So current users can use both of them, but we are going to delete payment address create command in future LibIndy releases. I think that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Artem. I'm really excited about this Indy Node release. It's, quote, just a bug fix release, but a lot of these things are things raised by the community that really enhance the polish of the system, improve consistency, make it easier to use. So thank you for all the work you did there. Well, with that, we're going to end for this time. We'll post again in 2 weeks. You can reach out to us at chat.hyperledger.org, or you can also find us, of course, in jira.hyperledger.org. So thank you. Let us know if you have any questions.